actually, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up anyway, but I do want to be a farmer, but I've been involved in organics on a policy side as well as in distribution. And that's why Laura Telford asked me to come here and talk about the produce industry, or the vegetable, organic advantage for vegetable production, because I was involved in distribution with a company called Pro-Organics, and we were national, so for over 13 years. And so I still have a bit of a pulse on what's going on, but I am just a consultant now. So let me launch into this. First of all, actually, I just want to do a quick run through as who's in the audience. So are there any conventional producers here who are thinking about organic? Okay, so you need convincing, right? Okay, and organic producers? Okay. Just people interested in organic? Okay, awesome. All right, so I just want to know that so I can see how I can sort of like position my presentation. So I'm going to start off by talking about the market in general. And the Canada Organic Trade Association usually comes to these conferences and they present a lot of great information from the research that they've done. So I've taken some of their work and I've incorporated it into my presentation. So we're going to start off by the market. But I'm going to start off with one of the projects we've done from the Organic Value Chain Roundtable, which was to promote organic and think before you eat. Is this bold concept that you're going to be seeing more of in the next few years. It's getting traction now. But it was through funding from Agriculture Canada, and all of these materials are vetted through many, many agencies. But we've got the 5 points why eat organic food. It's great tasting and nutritious. It reduces our exposure to pesticides and GMOs. It's produced and certified to meet national organic standards. It's healthy for soil, plants, animals, and reduces our carbon footprint. And these things were vetted through the CFIA and the Agriculture Canada, and they're supporting this because it doesn't denigrate conventional. It just talks about what organic is in a snapshot. And I'm going to say, I'm going to do this presentation a bit differently than the others. You can ask questions during, so I want to make it as interactive as possible. Okay, so don't be shy. So this, actually these are from postcards, and I'm not going to list off all the cool information on there. In fact, Stuart had touched upon some of the stats. But the organic market, well, it says it's 3.5 million. It's actually now 4 billion as of 2014. And we've got some amazing figures here. It has grown 3 times since 2006. We have exports valued at 550. It says 458, but it's grown a little bit. 40% of organic sales in mainstream retail are fresh fruits and vegetables, and that 40% has been that way since I started in organic about 20 years ago. So it's a significant portion, and that's just the mainstream market. We're not talking about direct farm marketing at all. BC is the strongest organic market in Canada. 66% of Colombians consume organic groceries at a high level. In fact, in Vancouver, 75% of the population say they consume organic regularly. So it's, I'm pretty lucky to be there. I'm actually from Quebec, but I live there now. Another thing is 40% of all salad mixes brought by Canadians are organic. So that's the entire category is organic. Most of it's imported. So you can see that Canadians are buying it, and maybe some of them don't even realize it when they're buying it. We have growth rates. Organic farms grew by 66% since 2001, so we're actually growing. And we have a number of other stats, but those are the bigger stats that come from here. And you can actually access this, I believe, this presentation later, so you can get look at it more closely. Actually, the farmer, you touched upon organic being, we are the next generation of farmers. We have more younger farmers in the organic pool. And for instance, 41% of organic farmers in Canada are over 55 years old compared to 48% of the farm industry as a whole. So we do have a lot of youth, and that's the greatest part of our organic. We also create jobs at twice the rate of conventional farms. That's really significant. And that's a huge draw for the younger generation. And although organic farms only represent less than 2% of total farms in Canada, we employ over 3.75% of the total farm force. So we've got some pretty cool stats on our side. This actually comes out of what the Organic Advantage pamphlet that you'll see outside, but I won't, you can look at this lovely thing, but one of the things is North America accounts for 50% of the global organic demand, but only produces 7.5% of the organic production. So that's a huge thing. Another stat here is for every $100 earned per acre, an organic farmer keeps $58, while a conventional farmer keeps only $31. So those are pretty significant things. And organic producers' input costs are about half of their conventional counterparts. So this speaks well to the organic advantage of the business case, why you want to go organic. What I want to draw your attention to, I mean, I have the recent stats, but we're looking at 10% annual growth rate. When we first started organic, we were looking at 30, 40, 50% growth rates. Now it's sort of tempered down to 10%, but it's still the fastest growing area in the agri-food industry. So it's a pretty cool thing. But if you look at the market share, this column here, you can see that, and that market share is versus all the product, say food and beverages in retail. Organic still only has a 1.7% market share at retail and mainstream stores. So we have a lot of growth potential for sure. And you can see the other categories here as well. But it just shows that there's lots of room. This slide here shows where the share of the total organic sales are. So this is the important part here, where you see that mainstream retail has close to 50%. And down the line, direct-to-consumer about 11%. I think most of that is in BC, actually. And you can see buying clubs and cooperatives. But there are many sources, and all the channels are growing. So here you go. Unfortunately, they've lumped Manitoba and Saskatchewan together here. But you can see that in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, the largest bulk of sales are in the mainstream retail, where you have the natural health food stores and the direct markets here. Ontario, just by virtue of the size of the population, they have the majority of their sales are in mainstream retail. But you can see sort of how it's divided across the country. In fact, if you lump Manitoba and Saskatchewan together, it reflects, it's quite similar to the Atlantic provinces.
How do they collect info on direct marketing stats? Because that's kind of like it's hard to put numbers in that area a lot of the time.
It is. So the question is, how do they collect stats on direct marketing? And there is BC is a hotbed of, say, farmers markets, for instance, but they collect stats every year from their own farmers markets. And so I think there's some research on in Ontario as well. So there are the different provinces where farmers markets are significant. They do have an association that collects those numbers.
That's all for certified organics, right?
Certified organic only. Yeah, it's not. I'm talking about certified organic, not maybe organic or claimed organic, but certified. This slide, again, we'll look at Manitoba and Saskatchewan. It shows that, and this is the column, we're looking at organic fresh vegetables. You can see that this market share is about 3% of organic, well, less than 3% of organic fresh vegetables are, fresh vegetables are organic in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. You can see BC has got 6% in the mainstream stores. In fact, some stores like 50 Foods had over 10% of their, and they're mainstream, owned by Sobeys. They had over 10% was organic. So these are 2012 figures, but they're similar, but they're growing. Any questions so far? This one shows, again, these are the mainstream retail stores. You can see the top one, fresh vegetables, is like blasting through this. And that's not including salad greens. You've got salad greens here. So if you add those two together, you can see that they're leading the category. In fact, fresh produce is what brings consumers to organic. And retailers know this, so the ones who are actually making a good job with merchandising their product, they're helping grow the category a lot, but that's their introduction into organic. Then they go into the other areas and the other food products. So this is the telling piece. This shows how much of these particular items are produced by Canadian producers. And here, mainstream vegetables, only 26% is produced by Canadians. About 74% is imported, so there's a huge potential for import displacement.
How much of that imported stuff could actually be produced here?
Most of it. Well, this is fresh vegetables, so we're not talking fruit. Actually, pretty well most of it.
So, I guess what I mean is, like there's lots of that yearly intake where we can produce it during the summertime, but we wouldn't be able to supply all year round, right? Or what percentage is it that we just couldn't supply just because of where we're located geographically?
I don't have
Even
that.
though at some time we can, but most of the time we can't.
Yeah, and of course it depends on whether it's cold storage crops. When you're talking leafy greens and things, sometimes it's just not, you can't compete against import.
Right.
Although, granted, the crazy dollar right now is partly what's well, we'll talk about in a bit. But like things like fresh salads, like those packaged salads,
Right.
they're coming in from across the border for sure.
Right.
But carrots is a big deal for sure. And we didn't talk about baby peeled carrots. We were importing, well, all of them pretty well from across the border.
Like we grew carrots at one point, and we found that we couldn't, like we could store them we could store them all year long, but we couldn't compete with the Americans past December because they would be coming in from their every 2-week harvest or something, and they'd be coming in and looking fresh and orange. And I mean, if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
But just looks-wise, even though we could supply 12 months of the year, we couldn't compete with them on just the looks. So I'm just wondering, for that stat, what part of it could we realistically capture, even though, has it ever been looked at that way?
And that's an excellent project, actually, and particularly for Manitoba as well, what you can capture here and supply. But when I'm speaking to distributors, and I'll speak about that later, I mean, what they're looking for, they've got their suppliers, but they need a hell of a lot more. But they're also looking to fill the gap. So when their local suppliers, like in Ontario, are through, like we talked about, Wolfgang was talking about, he just does fresh, he really doesn't store carrots. When they're done, they'll buy from Manitoba, they'll fill that gap. They want local Canadian. So there's a whole bunch of issues that we need to look at. What's realistic, what's competitive. Of course, then we're dealing with the exchange rate, which actually heightens now the distributors and retailers' desire to, hey, we want to really focus on local because the dollar, these kinds of things it affects food security, it affects a lot of things. And so this is a great time to start talking about local and actually supporting growers to deal with those particular issues that you're talking about. We do have storage carrots. This is what they look like. They taste just as good as the other ones. So there is some education. It does depend, like Wolfgang said, you've got people that will always want organic irregardless, and then you've got the ones who just want it because it looks nice or is the right price point. So I hate to say that it's a fickle market, but it does need a little more research to focus on particular crops that you want to grow. So Canadians, so this is not a passing fad anymore. I mean, I spent years talking about, this is here to stay. And it just shows that Canadians who are buying organic weekly and are buying more, in fact, they also said they're going to buy more. They have a whole bunch of reasons why they want to buy organic, the health, healthy environment. And while we will never say in our promotion that it's more nutritious than conventional, they believe it.
Is there a lot of evidence for that these days? Like I've seen 1 or 2 studies that there may be some differences from the soil, but do you know a lot of?
Yeah, there's actually more. I have to say there's compelling research, but you can look at research either way. I mean, there's a big war on this, right?
Yeah.
So go to the Organic Center because they collect the newest research, and there's been a review just done as well. There's a lot of meta-analyses. There's a lot of new research as well. But yeah, it's an ongoing debate, and it depends on which side you want to be on, and you'll find something to support your position.
Okay.
So who's buying it? Actually, it's a very ethnically diverse market. 67, close to 70% are non-Caucasian. And that's an area that people are tapping into. British Columbia is really good about that. Biggest cities, 62% are families, 62% are 35 to 44-year-olds, and over 60% are university educated. So that's just a snapshot of who the main customers are. So this is how, it shows you how the organic claim influences buying decisions. So it's this one here. And the Prairies is the second one from the bottom. So there definitely is an influences the buying decision with respect to calling your product certified organic. And then you can see there was some research done on the Canadian organic logo, and you can see that close to 90% consider it trustworthy, and close to 70% say it influences the buying decision. So definitely people are tweaking into organic, certified organic, and the Canadian organic program. So this is the organic advantage that the Organic Value Chain Roundtable developed. We've got grain, horticulture, and vegetable crops, and beef. And I believe that Laura has set up some outside there. So what are we talking about? You can see already the market advantage. The consumer demand is outpacing capacity. And this is the story from the very beginning of organic, and it's a good story. The business advantage, the producers who transition are rewarded with increased profitability, and we're going to touch upon a few of those things. And there is significant research and knowledge to help producers navigate. Extension officers, extension, there should be more, but a lot of science and everything else. And we've got, I know that Laura's got she's got a lot of resources that she can supply to you as well. So where we are in terms of exactly what's selling in Canada, and you can see, lettuce, obviously that is a challenging one to do all year round. And this is what's imports as well as conventional. Imports and Canadian, sorry. I love the other category, but we got probably squash in there for sure. And carrots is the next best-selling product next to lettuce. But you got the mushrooms, onions, broccoli, cauliflower, pretty small sales there. But spinach, other carrots and lettuce are big. The imports, now I know that Stuart had this screen up as well, but you can see that carrots, we import a hell of a lot of carrots right here. This is 2011 data, 2012 data. Spinach, lettuce, almost 100% is imported. This again is through mainstream, so it doesn't include the direct marketing stuff. Yeah. All right, pricing. So the big issue is, what is the price premium? And I can tell you, it goes all over the map. The blue is organic and the yellow is conventional. And you can average, well, there's no average. I mean, 10 to 50%. Back in the early days, it was zero, well, minus 10 to 300%. They were all over the map. And it's because, as you all know, produce is highly volatile. It's a perishable product. But in organic, it's even more highly volatile because we're dealing with a smaller production base. And so the fluctuations are huge. And there was a time when we were one of the main distributors, we can actually corner a product, an entire product category, and sell it whatever price we can make. Of course, we probably lose money on the next lot, but now we've got a lot more supply coming in from across the border for sure. So the fluctuations are not as dramatic, but you are pretty well almost guaranteed to always have a premium. This is 2011 and 2013 data, but we're seeing the same thing. It's just, that's what produce does. Pretty wonky. Cauliflower. And cauliflower has its own story right now, right? Carrot prices. The blue one is organic high. Pretty well almost all the way through, it always higher than conventional.
Is this across the country?
Yes. And again, organic's way up there, the yellow onions. So I mean, the premium's pretty attractive. So, all right, we talked about it here. The thing about mainstream retailers, they really want to keep it as stable as possible. I mean, you will see the bag salads and the greens, they pretty well are stable. You know what you're going to buy from Earthbound pack. But for storage crops and everything else, you're selling to mainstream, they're going to want to keep the prices as stable as possible. So as distributors selling to mainstream, there's a lot of give and take. Actually, you work with the farmer to help keep a price, but you don't both want to lose out. You work together to deliver the pricing that the retailer wants from you to go in that to the mainstream retailers. Profitability. Now, I'm not going to put anything on cost of production because it's so variable across farms. We all know lower input costs, you don't have the fertilizers, you don't have the agrochemicals, but you will have higher labor costs. In fact, some of the commercial operators in British Columbia, they said that their labor costs are 60% of their total cost. So it's pretty high. Like again, selling to wholesale distributors, 10 to 20%. Direct marketing, the smaller farms, they can get 30 to 40%. And actually, when I was speaking to direct marketers in BC, they were saying that they can get to $90,000 to $100,000 per acre selling direct. And of course, they're doing multiple crops, they're doing CSAs and whatever else. They don't like to talk about it because it's a hell of a lot of money.
It's a lot of work.
And it's a lot of work. Although they're working, I don't know if you know Jean-Martin Fortier from Quebec. He has a book about how to get that kind of gross revenue off your acre and how to work smarter. So there are different ways. Technology is better as well. But you know, that's why you want to tap into the farmers who are already farming to find out how they're doing it. It's like Wolfgang says, you learn through mistakes with each other as well. Okay, so I wanted to talk about processing briefly. This is also based on information collected from certification bodies and what the current market is regarding vegetable processed by product type. And you can see the frozen is pretty small, still 6%. Other, I'm assuming that these might be things like well, I know that we have a major processor here in the audience, and it could be, you know, purees and things for the food service market or so forth. So there's all kinds of possibilities within the processing market.
But is the frozen percent 6% because there isn't a lot of frozen organic food out there?
No, not, this is in Canadian.
Yeah, I know, but there's still, I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, I mean, it's still not as easily accessible.
No, that's
as,
right.
As fresh is. I
Yep.
mean, fresh is better, but if you have that option, I mean, sometimes it's nice to have some frozen on hand and
Oh,
some
for
other
sure.
product. But we have a hard time finding it here, and I go to Calgary, and it's still, there's not a big shelf supply there either.
No, and the freezer space that's a high retail, that's a high value real estate in the store too. So we're talking about that. But condiments is really big, you know, it's all your salsas and everything else. So there's possibilities there. And I just want to go back to fresh. When I was speaking with the distributors in Vancouver and in Ontario, what they're looking for, I mean, if you're looking at doing commercial organic production, you really do need to talk to the distributors to find out what they're looking for. And they will differ. Like in Ontario, in fact, I have to say all of them are looking for garlic. In Ontario, the market, they have very specific Italian market. They're looking for Roma tomatoes, I know, San Marzano tomatoes, like very specific things, but you gotta talk to them, and they wanna talk to you. Like if you're really serious about converting, or you're close to, like you're gonna be next year in organic production, really talk to them to make sure that you're gonna grow something that the market will buy. And you can also talk about pricing as well. But these guys have, especially the ones that I deal with, they've been in organic for many, many years, so they know, they understand farmers. They want to work with you because they want to increase access to organic. If you, like in BC, if you want to ship to BC, like BC wants more Asian vegetables, right? So that market is very specific as well. But they're looking for, and specialty potatoes, like Wolfgang was talking this morning about, no, actually you were talking about specialty potatoes, the fingerlings. They all want that across the country, you know? They're looking for that kind of stuff. Bunched anything, bunched kale, bunched chard, what have you.
How about rhubarb? Price of rhubarb is organic, is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
There you go.
Lots of it.
Okay. You know what, Lily? So what, you grow well, find out if there's a market for it. Oh, definitely. So any questions? I'm just going to go and touch on seed. Any questions so far on any of this? All right. So there's a fantastic, you can get this online. It's about the ecological seed, organic and ecological seed in Canada. And in fact, Stuart talked a bit about seed today, but we have very little organic seed grown in Canada. In fact, pretty well, close to 99% is from other countries, mostly the US. And USC Canada has taken on a project now to help Canadian farmers look at developing seeds specifically for Canadian conditions. As you can see right now, the vegetable seed market is 28 million, and that's ecological and organic. Organic is 9 million. Ecological is the non-treated, non-GMO seed. If you can see that there's 28 million, that only 9 million is organic, there's a huge potential. If you want to go into seed production, there's a huge market, there's a potential market there as well. And this is prairies, I'm sorry, you're all bunched together again, but you can see that the seed market by region, what you're growing in terms of vegetables. BC, of course, is pretty high, and Ontario and Quebec is pretty high. We've got about 8,300 acres of vegetable production in Canada, organic vegetable production, and that's only 0.5% of total acreage in organic production in Canada. So we can do a lot more. By crop type, you can see potatoes is a big one. The unspecified vegetables, I love that category again. It's all about stats, but you can see you can go down the line: garlic, others, green beans, broccoli, carrots, sweet corn, tomatoes. All of these distributors want more of those Canadian grown. And your prairie, there you go. It's mostly potatoes. You got fresh peas, corn, radish, and so forth. And of course, the big category of unspecified vegetables. Okay, well this concludes my part of the presentation. I think I powered through that. Are there any questions? You guys have been great. I'm glad we had a dialogue amongst the group. But thank you very much.